News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. President Trump on the construction site for the planned White House ballroom told reporters that Mideast countries have asked him to wait for a few days before another attack on Iran.
I had made the decision. So they called up. They had heard I made the decision. They said, sir, could you give us a couple of more days because we think they're being reasonable.
Trump said he would wait 2 or 3 days, maybe early next week, to give Iran time to make a deal. He added there may be other initiatives outside a federal gas tax suspension that he'll take to address gasoline prices. NATO is starting to consider deploying to Hormuz to help ships pass through the blocked strait if the waterway isn't reopened by early July. Bloomberg's Tyler Kendall.
This has support from several members of the alliance, but at this point, not full unanimous support that would be necessary in order for NATO to deploy military assets. But it comes as so far the alliance has been wary at best of President Trump's calls to have allies help.
So far, allies have insisted they only be involved in the strait once fighting has stopped and they can form a broad coalition that includes many non-NATO countries. At the G7, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent called on European partners to join the U.S. in taking action against Iran.
As the United States targets the financial networks that enemy actors use to perpetrate terror, we trust that your participation here today reflects a readiness to stand with us.
Bessent called for, quote, designating its financiers, unmasking its shell and front companies, shuttering its bank branches, and dismantling its proxies. Bessent also posted on social media that Treasury is issuing 30-day Russian oil waivers for the most vulnerable nations. And Secretary Bessent told Reuters in an interview on the sidelines of the G7 that the Trump administration is in no hurry to extend the tariff and critical minerals trade truce with China, which ends in November. He says there's still time to renew it in meetings later this year. And Bessent says he believes China will accept the restoration of prior U.S. tariff rates through new Section 301 duties as long as they don't go any higher. Wall Street's chipmaker trade is starting to unravel, dragging down stocks on speculation that a surge from this year's lows has gone too far amid war-fueled inflation risks. We check those markets for you all day long here at Bloomberg. The S&P 500 down 0.6%, NASDAQ down 1%, the Dow down just about 0.5%, the Russell 2000 index down 1.2%, the 10-year Treasury yield at 4.67%, and the 2-year yield at 4.12%. The 30-year Treasury yield today, right now 5.177%. That's the highest it's been since 2007. WTI topping $108 a barrel. Brent crude closing in on $111 a barrel. And a key gauge of Home Depot sales missed expectations in the latest quarter as muted housing demand and high borrowing costs limited consumer spending on improvement projects. Home Depot shares right now about 0.5% higher. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche on Capitol Hill for his first congressional testimony since taking the reins at the Justice Department as that agency faces intense scrutiny over its plans to create a $1.776 billion fund to pay allies of President Trump.
This is unusual. That is true. But it is not unprecedented. And it was done to address something that had never happened again either. So there is an unprecedented nature of what we did yesterday in response to years and years of weaponization.
Maryland Democrat Chris Van Hollen accused Blanche of doing what he called the president's dirty work.
You have clear conflicts of interest between your prior job as the president's personal lawyer and your duty to ensure justice.
Blanche said the Justice Department is committed to full transparency in providing public information about beneficiaries of that new fund, which is meant to compensate allies of President Trump who say they were mistreated by the criminal justice system. It is a mini Super Tuesday in the midterm elections. 6 states holding primaries today, including Kentucky, where President Trump is looking to unseat Republican Congressman Thomas Massey. Bloomberg government's Zach Cohen is following this from Washington.
He's drawn more fire from President Trump just about any political figure since Joe Biden, given the Libertarians' opposition to Trump over the Epstein files, the war in Iran, spending. Trump has thrown his weight behind a former Navy SEAL named Ed Galrine, who was vowed to be a, quote, team player for Trump and House Speaker Mike Johnson.
Bloomberg government Zach Cohen reports nearly $33 million have been spent on this race, making it one of the most expensive House primaries ever. Primaries are also being held today in Pennsylvania, Alabama, Oregon, Idaho, and Georgia. That's where you'll find Bloomberg's Joe Matthew and Kaylee Lyons providing live coverage today and tomorrow on a special edition of Balance of Power from Georgia Tech in Atlanta. That's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris, and this is Bloomberg.